Hello Art12. Today you are getting your demonstration for range of value in pattern. So not only how to make some patterns look lighter, like this one, but how to make some patterns appear to be darker, like some of the smaller patterns there. And then in addition, what if you want value to fade? How can you make that happen with Sharpie? And then some reminding details about what if I want an area to look really, really dark. Okay, so if you want a pattern to be lighter, so this is my calendar pattern, it's pretty spread apart, it's pretty big, so therefore it's going to appear lighter in value. Also, there's not as much tiny detail happening in this one, so if you use less detail, it will also appear lighter. So a good example of that is on my party streamers. This one appears darker because I have the lines closer together, these two lighter because the lines are a little bit further apart. So then if you want to make a medium value, you can reduce the size or make the patterns a little bit smaller. So this one I would say is like a medium value. It has, some fine detail with the line, but it is smaller than the leaves. So therefore it will appear to be darker. If you also want an area to appear like medium to dark, you can add a little bit more detail or use some smaller detail. So let's say for my tent flaps right here, I want one side to be slightly darker than the other. And so therefore I'm going to use shape for this one. So therefore I'm going to do little circles. I could use squares. I guess I could have done triangles. I feel like circles are really easy to do. So they're not super tiny, not as tiny as the little circles in that one, because I want it to be like a medium value. And remember, inside of your imagery is already part of your theme. So you don't necessarily have to have themed pattern inside of your imagery. A lot of it's really small. Like I can't put a theme pattern inside that little tent stake, so I just chose a simple pattern. Okay, so that appears probably a little bit darker, maybe medium, but if I want this other side to be really dark, then I'm going to do super tiny little circles, and the smaller it is, the darker it will look. Or the closer the lines are together, the darker it will look. The more overlap, the darker it will appear. Okay, so you get the idea. I'll finish that later. But I'm not filling in solid. Number one, solid looks bad. Number two, it takes forever. All right, so I'd find something small to put inside. All right, then if you want an area to appear like it's fading out, I'm gonna do this piece here. I would find something simple to fade out with, and I'm gonna use just line. And so I'm gonna start out closer together, slowly start spacing out my lines. So then it looks like it's fading. I'm also gonna add like a little half line in the spaces so that that one side appears slightly darker as well. I can also do this with pattern. So at the top I have a space. I'm gonna flip this around so that you guys can see a little bit better. I have this space left. I want a pattern to go from bigger to smaller. So therefore it looks like the pattern is getting, well, it looks like it's going into the distance, but it also looks like it's getting lighter or darker. So I'm gonna use this point to start out from. I'm gonna do some radiating line. Okay, so then I would draw a basic structure. I think I'm gonna do like curved kind of lines, but I'm gonna add into them. So I'm gonna do my sections that are getting bigger and bigger. And maybe they do not align with each other. Okay, then I'm gonna think of a pattern to put inside of that. So I'm gonna use a shape that I haven't used anyplace else. I'm gonna put like a square in there, and then the square is gonna get smaller in each little section. That would kind of disappear and get bigger, and then I would kind of add into it. So you can make the pattern go from big to small, but you do have to draw a structure first. So that's another way that you can get your patterns to look like they're fading in value. You can do it with lines, you can do it with little shapes, or for tiny areas, then I would use like little dots. Or if you want an area to fade out. So let's say, I'm gonna go back to the 10. Let's say I want this top edge to fade darker to lighter. You wanna be careful with your Sharpie. You wanna be precise, like you shouldn't be, sorry, scribble in my border. Okay, there we go. You wanna touch precisely. You shouldn't hear the tap, tap, tapping of like rain falling. You're pressing the tip of the Sharpie too hard. Okay, so then an area where I want it to be darker, I'm gonna add more and then spread it out so it appears lighter. So I like to do that along edges that are hard to put a pattern against. Like, okay, I did all this pattern where my thumb is, but still on this side, I'm gonna erase this pencil. I can't see my thumb anymore. So along this edge in this calendar one, I'm gonna add, it's called stippling, the little dots. It always looks good. It's not hard, it just takes time. So you wanna make sure they're actual dots and not like little, like this doesn't count as dots, plus you're killing the Sharpie when you do that. So be gentle with the Sharpie. You only have 2 for this project. And actually you're gonna use one of them for another project as well. Okay, so I wanna do that along the edge of my calendar. So then I'm going to dot along the edge of my thumb, because this line is gonna disappear when I erase the pencil. And I'm just gonna act like I'm fading little dots down for whatever part of the pattern is behind the thumb. So then I'm creating the edge of the thumb here as well. So I will go back and add a little bit more. So that's why I say like do some in an area, kind of let it be just in case you want to add more later, or maybe it just needs to stay light and you're going to do nothing with it later. You kind of get it going and then come back to it for visual balance. Okay, so remember, no, you cannot color solid areas in. You could have slightly thicker lines. So if you just want to do like a double line, just slightly thicker, that's okay. But you're not supposed to be filling in large areas solid. Number 1, it wastes your Sharpie and you're not getting more. Number 2, it takes longer. And number 3, if you're coloring solid with these little Sharpies, it never looks good. It's much better to just use a line, use a dot, use a tiny shape to make area look darker. Plus, you're meeting the complexity of pattern requirement. You're also creating range of value. And in the end, your craftsmanship is better. So do not color in solid. Okay, good luck. Have fun.